My name is Debra Adelson. I live in Collingswood, New Jersey, and I'm a jeweler. I work with glass and sterling silver mostly, but also gemstones and some gold. I started off working with plastics. I even wrote a book for Lark Publishing about plastics, and I worked with plastics for numerous, over 10 years. I have a 10-year-old son now, and when I was pregnant with him, I started having all sorts of anxiety about what the legacy was that I was leaving this planet with plastics. And so when I became pregnant and I had all this anxiety, I just flat out stopped working with plastics and I threw it all away. And there were a number of years where I just experimented with all different materials, and I came upon working with glass, and I played with it, experimented, and then I went up to Corning Museum School in upstate New York, and I took some classes, and I really fell in love with the material and what it does. And you know, it really is a very three-dimensional opalescent, and it catches the light, and it has a lot of reflections and depth. Why I used the materials I used were mainly because I wanted to leave a legacy behind about the environment. And so it kind of snowballed into the theme of my work being environmental. And I use a lot of my own photographs as my inspiration. So I start with the image, and then I do lots of drawings, and I try and come up with my visual language for that place or natural phenomena. And I take it from there. So I come up with my color palette, and I develop the glass based on the color palette that I feel like explains that place. I don't want to be literal. You know, I very rarely make something that is super literal. I just want to get that vibe. My first thing that I dealt with were icebergs. You know, it was a really obvious place to start because of the environment. And so I deal with all the different textures and colors and nuance of color that I feel tell the story of, you know, the polar ice caps. You're a little bit of a mechanic. You're a little bit of an inventor. There's a lot, it's three-dimensional. I love playing with different materials and putting them together and figuring out how something's gonna work. And when you make a piece of sculpture and it's just gonna sit on the table, you don't have to put the same type of thought in when it needs to lay on the body. It has to be comfortable, it has to be wearable, it has to function, it has to look good from different angles. There's a lot of mechanics that go into it. I love things that are vibrant and opalescent, but also feminine and powerful. My pieces are not super tiny. So I feel like when you wear something that I make, it's a statement.